Well, fuck you then. Helluva Boss episode 5. I don't have an intro. There you go. Blitz's thumb didn't really touch the wheel of the lighter, it just passes nearby. And also, why is he covering the cigarette and the lighter with his hand since they are indoors? Stolas' collar changes its inner color from scene to scene. Blitz's horn changes its color a bit. I realize it's probably just Stolas' movement and lighting, but this one does look weird how it just pops in to a brighter color and then back to normal. Same thing here. And here the horns switch coloring completely. Horn tip switches colors and is a little bit protruding into its other horn. An outline is missing on Blitz's thumb. A small line is clipping into Stolas' finger. Blitz's eye mark is clipping a bit into his mouth or tooth. And even more so here. This whole scene seems to be really laggy. It's like it's running on half the frame rate as it normally does, or should. The wheels on the car do not even spin. He was petting her so hard that her hair went behind her eyelashes, or eyes. There are two frames in this scene where Millie's mom's eyes just are missing color for no reason. I'm not sure if I'm being too anal, but as she's talking, her mouth is extending over her white marks. This does happen here or there, so I'm just gonna count this one and maybe a few others that I found, but I'm just gonna leave the rest as is.
We're doing fine. It's fine.
Translation? It's not. Moxie's eyeball is clipping with Millie's hair. Moxie's teeth in this frame are missing their color. Moxie has a weird line across his teeth. Moxie is missing a small outline on his hair on his eye. Blitz's arm is cut off.
Y'all don't deserve to know my name.
Oh, that's rude. This whole scene has a white line on the left, middle and right edge. In this one frame, Blitz's little back spike goes transparent and so does its shadow for no reason. In this frame, there are a few minor clipping issues. It is very subtle, but we can see a white dot appear near Blitz's head spike and a very small line on his forehead symbol. Millie's hairline is clipping into her thumb. In this whole scene, Striker's smile is just constantly going into his hat. For a few frames, there is a small line beneath Striker's eye, but suddenly disappears, so I'm not sure what was the purpose of that. Maybe it could be an outline of his nose or eye or something, but then again the question is, why does it disappear? Why doesn't it just stay there? Striker's tail seems like it's not connected to anything and is just floating around. Obviously it's coming from his lower back, but we don't see even a hint to it. In this scene, Striker has the piece of wheat or straw or whatever in his mouth, but he didn't have it in the previous scene. I'm not gonna count this one because it's weird and plausible at the same time, but as Millie's dad speaks, his mustache becomes semi-transparent in a certain spot. Near Millie's horn there is a very small bit that suddenly switches colors. In this one frame there is an additional line near his foot that just poofs. There is a very small red smudge on Millie's shoulder for a few frames. This might be a bit of a stretch, but in the previous scene it didn't seem like, or at least it wasn't depicted, that they are standing behind a fence, so I won't count this. But what I am going to count is the flimsy ass fence that is supposed to hold back a huge ass boar. Also, Moxie and the boar are the only ones with a shadow. The knife in Moxie's hand switches positions compared to how it was before he jumped on the boar. Between Moxie's legs there is a space that just switches colors. Blitz's legs clip through the fence. This actually happens several times, so I'm going to just nuke it. In this one frame, the inner part of Blitz's collar turns darker than before and then goes back to normal. Striker's tail spikes are red on the outside, judging by what we see in the episode, so it doesn't really make any sense why half of them are red here. I'm not really an expert in imp body anatomy, but I'm pretty sure that their tails should not be semi-transparent. We can see Moxie chilling in the previous scene, but in this one Millie comes out of nowhere and Moxie said his clavicle or collarbone hurts, but Millie out here fixing his arm. I'm not sure if I should count this one, but there is this weird outline between the hair and fabric. This could be just lighting and shadows, but like I said, it's weird. This is the only scene where Moxie's sleeve is rolled up for the bandage. Other than that, the bandage kind of changes in size, meaning sometimes it's covering more of the arm than in other scenes. Shout out to Super Robbie on Helluva Boss subreddit for capturing this frame where Wackford's body decides to just Houdini the F out. However, what is interesting is that for me, or on YouTube, this frame doesn't exist. It could be a Patreon video, post, whatever. I mean, I could have just asked in the comments, but I'm too lazy. The little fuzz on Stolas' collar is clipping into his mouth. There is this singular frame in this scene that doesn't belong here. Or rather, it was accidentally left here because of scrapped content. Listen, this is absolutely unrealistic. He didn't even press the trigger, the hammer didn't go back and forth to strike the firing pin, and the cylinder didn't even spin. Thank you. There is a slight clipping issue with Blitz's tail and the boards, and Stryker is missing a tiny bit of his outline on his torso. Moxie isn't even holding it with one of his hands. And also the dude on the left doesn't properly hold the rope in the whole scene. There are a few frames where Blitz's forearm markings are clipping a tiny bit into the rope. Weird line on Stryker's back and leg. Blitz's horn outline is on Stryker's leg. This weird line on Stryker's knee. Another random black dot on Stryker's thigh/ass. The way Stolas and Wackford are hanging out of the tower doesn't really make sense, since they are pretty much clipping through the whole railing, or rather are in front of it. Somehow, Moxie didn't get his clothes muddy after all of that. Wackford has a very bizarre laggy shadow behind him for a few frames, and also, for a few frames, the microphone he's holding pops out of his hand. For a few frames, Stolas' arm has some minor clipping issues with the book. Blitz's neck isn't properly attached to his body. Right about here, Wackford should hit the pole with his hand, or at least that's how it looks like. But he doesn't. Moxie has a weird line on his arm. For one single frame, there appears to be a small square near Stryker's tail that seems to cut out one of the lights and a smudge of the light too. Also, I'm not even gonna start on how the lights appeared out of nowhere. Their eyes seem to be drawn too thick, I guess, while the rest of their bodies seem a bit excessively blurred. The little dude's horn got cut off for a few frames. The scale of the crowd is off since the dude on the right is being cut off. There is a very small black dot on Blitz's cheek, again for no reason. Moxie suddenly has a black eye, or rather, he didn't before, or at this point I don't even know, because it's almost random it seems. For one frame, Moxie's black eye is over his mouth line. For a few frames, Moxie's black eye is above his hair. For a lot of frames, there is another random black dot on the door. Moxie's hand and the rail are clipping. Also, we should be able to see Moxie's tail through his fingers. Stryker's tail doesn't really make any sense here, as it seems that it's coming out from his side. Or it could just be perspective, but nah. Stryker is so excited that his smile forgot in which layer it's supposed to be. In this frame, Millie's hair outline disappears. And in this frame, some weird stuff is happening behind Millie's hair. The wooden post edges are too big, so Millie and Moxie get split in an unimmersive way. Moxie puts his hand on the ground, but it's under Millie's tail, which wouldn't really make any sense as to how it happened. In this frame, Moxie's eyes are sticking out just a little bit from their eye outline. As someone who prides himself in weapon arms knowledge, I am disappointed in Moxie. There is no trigger discipline and his thumb is on the hammer, which doesn't make any sense since it's a semi-automatic pistol and not a single action, not single shot, revolver. Same as before with the eyes, Millie's eyes have more, I guess, contrast, I think that's the right one. Basically, they don't really fit their surroundings. Even though Stryker already had the gun aimed at Stolas, he did it again. Blitz's pupils are shifting color between pinkish and white. So, what the hell is going on with Striker's teeth? Or rather gums, I guess? Is it like he's so angry that his mouth started to deform and also his smile is in the head again? For a few frames, Moxie's horn behind his hair is a darker color and then it pops back to normal. The eye on the left is not colored like the rest of them. Blitz's little tail spike is doing something fishy. The golden button on Striker's sleeve is missing. When did Blitz even have the time to sheath or rather retrieve the pistol? Last time I checked, it got knocked out of his hand and fell onto the ground. And the door is suddenly closed. Of course. Millie's hair is semi-transparent. The imp van suddenly rotated 180 degrees. Moxie's hair is poking him in the eye. XD. Same like with the intro, I don't really have an outro. All I'm going to say is that everything was fine. The whole episode was absolutely great. Just like any other previous episode. Voiceover, voice acting, video effects, sound effects, the pacing of the video, what happened in the video or episode. Everything is fine, but for one thing, I have 2 notes here. The lighting felt off a little bit. I don't know if it was just me, but it just felt, I don't know, there was so much lighting going on. You have one scene where there's some kind of lighting, I don't know, for example, orange lighting, and the next scene or 2 scenes, 3 scenes after, the lighting completely changes. Might be just me, I'm not sure. And also, the whole episode seemed a little bit too blurry or fuzzy. There were a lot of instances where there was just unnecessary depth of field, I guess, or ambient occlusion, whatever. You have your primary thing that you're looking on and just everything around it is blurry. Why? That's all I wanted to say. You have a good one. How do I make videos anymore? I don't remember. I barely upload.